In a world that screams at you to connect, to network, to build your brand, to be seen, what if the most important journey you could ever take was into absolute, radical solitude? In an age of constant noise, what if the only way to hear your own voice is to walk into a place of profound silence? What if you had to get completely and utterly lost in order to finally find yourself? This is not a theoretical question. In 1977, a young woman named Robyn Davidson decided to answer it. She arrived in the dusty, hard-bitten town of Alice Springs in Central Australia with a dog, $6, and an idea that everyone told her was insane, impossible, and suicidal. She wanted to walk 1,700 miles from the center of the continent to the Indian Ocean, through some of the most beautiful and unforgiving desert on planet Earth, and she wanted to do it alone with a team of 4 camels. Her memoir, Tracks, is the story of that journey. But to call it just an adventure story is to miss the point entirely. This is a work of deep philosophy, written in sweat and sand. It's the story of a woman's deliberate pilgrimage away from the safety, comfort, and expectations of the modern world, and into the very heart of herself. It's an inquiry into what is truly essential for a human life, and a testament to the extraordinary things we are capable of when we have the courage to shed the unnecessary and walk our own path, no matter how strange or difficult it may seem. So, why would anyone choose to do this? Robyn Davidson was not a professional adventurer or an expert survivalist. She was a young woman in her mid-20s, disillusioned with the noise, the intellectual pretension, and the casual sexism of the city life she knew. She felt a deep sense of alienation, a feeling that the life she was supposed to live was a hollow and meaningless performance. She was possessed by a powerful, almost primal yearning for something real, something clean, something that couldn't be faked. The desert, in its brutal honesty and indifference, called to her. But an idea like this isn't born in a single flash of inspiration. It's built piece by painful piece, through sheer grit and perseverance. The first part of her journey wasn't in the desert at all. It was in the town of Alice Springs. She needed to acquire and train a team of wild camels, but she was broke. So, for 2 years, she subjected herself to a grueling and often humiliating apprenticeship. She worked for abusive and misogynistic camel owners who saw her as a joke. She learned the hard way, through back-breaking labor in the scorching heat, how to handle these massive, stubborn, and magnificent creatures. She lived in a shed, slept on floors, and endured a level of poverty and hardship that would have broken most people before they ever even saw the desert. This period is a crucial part of the book's philosophy. It's a powerful lesson in preparation. The epic journey we see on the map was only made possible by 2 years of unglamorous, thankless, and often miserable work. She had to learn the craft, to understand the animals, to harden her body and her will. This is the part of any great endeavor that is often invisible. It's the quiet, daily commitment to the process, the willingness to be a beginner and to fail, that earns you the right to even begin the real journey. By the time she was ready to leave Alice Springs, she was no longer the naive young woman who had arrived. She was a tough, capable, and deeply knowledgeable camelier. She had built herself into the person the journey required her to be. The journey itself, when it finally begins, is not a romantic escapade. It is a relentless and profound education. The desert becomes her one true teacher, and its lessons are taught not in words, but in direct, undeniable experience. The sheer scale and emptiness of the landscape begin to work on her. The crushing heat, the endless horizons, and the profound silence start to strip away the unnecessary layers of her personality. The person she was in the city, with all her social anxieties, her intellectual ideas, her ego, begins to dissolve. The desert demands a state of total present-moment awareness. A moment of inattention could mean missing a sign of water, stepping on a venomous snake, or losing the trail. She has to learn to read the subtle language of the land, to notice the smallest changes in the wind, the clouds, and the tracks in the sand. This intense focus clears her mind of the clutter of modern life. There is no room for worrying about the past or fantasizing about the future. There is only the immediate, raw reality of the present moment, the sun on her skin, the feel of the sand under her feet, the rhythm of her camel's steps. This is a state that many people spend years trying to achieve through meditation. The desert forces it upon her. It teaches her about her own resilience, pushing her to the absolute limits of her physical and mental endurance. It teaches her humility. In this vast landscape, her own life and problems feel appropriately small, But most of all, it teaches her a different way of being. She learns to move at the pace of the sun and the camels, not the clock. She learns that time is not a line to be conquered, but a circle to be lived within. The desert, in its harsh and unforgiving beauty, breaks her down and then rebuilds her into someone simpler, stronger, and more whole. On this journey into radical solitude, Robyn is paradoxically never truly alone. Her relationships with her 4 camels, Zuleika the matriarch, Dookie the grumpy bull, Bub the young and sweet one, and Goliath the giant, and especially with her loyal black dog, Diggity, form the emotional core of the book. These animals are not just beasts of burden or tools for her journey. They are her companions, her family, her tribe. She develops a deep, nonverbal, and profoundly moving bond with each of them. A central conflict in the book is her relationship with Rick Smolin, the photographer from National Geographic. In a moment of desperation for funding, she had agreed to let the magazine sponsor her trip. For Robyn, Rick's presence is a jarring and unwelcome intrusion. He represents the very world she is trying to escape, a world of schedules, expectations, deadlines, and the performative act of being looked at. His camera turns her authentic private pilgrimage into a public spectacle. As her journey progresses, a significant transformation occurs in how she sees the land itself. For a large portion of the trek, she is accompanied by Mr. Eddie, an Aboriginal elder from the Pitjantjatjara people. Through Mr. Eddie's eyes, the desert is transformed. What once looked to her like a beautiful but empty wasteland is revealed to be a landscape rich with story, history, and sacred meaning. Every rock formation, every waterhole, every tree has a name, a purpose, and a place within the complex spiritual geography of the Aboriginal dreaming. He navigates through story, through song, through a deep, intuitive connection to the land that has been passed down for thousands of generations. Traveling with him, Robyn gets a glimpse of a profoundly different way of knowing and being in the world. She realizes that the Western colonial mindset sees the land as something to be conquered, mapped, and owned. The Aboriginal mindset sees the land as a living, sacred entity to which they belong. Her own journey, which she thought of as a heroic act of individual will, is put into a new perspective. She is merely a visitor, a ghost passing through a land that has a history and a meaning far deeper than she can ever truly comprehend. This part of the journey deepens her humility, and instills in her a profound respect for Indigenous Australian culture, and a sharp critique of the arrogance and destructiveness of the colonial world. She is no longer just moving across a landscape, she is learning to see the soul of a place. The woman who walked out of the desert. The end of the journey, reaching the turquoise waters of the Indian Ocean, is not the triumphant, happy ending that a movie might portray. It is a moment of profound disorientation and bittersweet sorrow. She has accomplished her absurd goal, she has survived, but the woman who walks into the ocean is not the same woman who left Alice Springs. She has been so deeply changed by the silence, the solitude, and the rhythms of the desert that the modern world feels alien and absurd. The noise of cars, the chatter of people, the obsession with trivial things, it's all jarring and nonsensical to her. She has spent 9 months in a state of heightened, primal awareness, and now she must somehow re-assimilate into a world that seems to be asleep. The greatest challenge of her journey is not crossing the desert, but figuring out how to live in the world afterwards. The book ends on this note of unease. A true transformation is permanent. You can't just go back to who you were before. The journey gave her the clarity and self-knowledge she was seeking, but it also left her with a sense of being an outsider, forever changed by the vast, silent wisdom of the desert. The final message of Tracks is a powerful one. While most of us will never cross a physical desert with a team of camels, we all have our own internal deserts to navigate, periods of loneliness, of difficulty, of feeling lost. Robyn Davidson's story is a radical and inspiring guide. It teaches us the importance of having the courage to walk into our own solitude, to shed the layers of who we think we're supposed to be, and to listen intently for the quiet, resilient, and authentic self that is waiting to be discovered in the silence. It is a profound inquiry into the nature of freedom and the search for a meaningful life. If that's an inquiry that speaks to your soul, you are in the right place. Welcome to Geeky Philosopher. Subscribe, and let's continue the journey.